Hello, welcome. I'm Pauline from PQW. Thrilled that you can join us on our YouTube channel. I want to be able to show you how I quilt my blocks very easy for all my Quilt-as-you-go quilts. We've designed a beautiful range of quilting templates that we're going to show you how to trace them onto your fabric, and we're only going to trace onto an individual block. Then I'm going to show you how easy it is to quilt with your feed dogs up. Very, very simple process. We have a lot of different templates in our range and we're adding to it all the time. So here in front of me I have two of the templates. These are in the Quilt-as-you-go quilting template range. This is set B. So we're giving you two different design shapes, a little bit similar in some ways, but when I show you the different designs you can create with these, it's very exciting. The templates are very easy to use. You're just going to trace through the slit of the template onto your fabric, and then you're going to go to the machine and stitch on the line with your feed dogs up and a regular foot on your machine. So nothing to do with free motion quilting, it is stitching on a line. So let's get you started. I always use and recommend for my Quilt-as-you-go quilts is the Hobbs Heirloom double-sided fusible batting. Now I have got these all ironed up, but if I need to remove this from here, I can very easily simply just drag it back and I can re-iron with a hot dry iron, just very slowly moving it over the surface. Once you get the front done, you flip it over and you press the back. And you can see you get a lovely surface. And I always do that before I trace my quilting design on, because if I just trace directly onto a piece of fabric, I tend to get dragging from the pencil as I draw the design, but ironing the 3 layers up like I have, I get a beautiful finish. Let's just start with this simple little template. Now, it's a very simple template, but it's the one that I've used to create the quilting on this cushion, and you can see how exciting it is. We've traced the design of the template, which comes to here. Then we've echoed out using the width of our foot on the sewing machine to create the fill-in. And it just makes it look so stunning. And these are the sort of things that you can do with our templates. Just because it's a small size doesn't mean to say that it can't grow into something that's much, much bigger. If you want to position this in the centre of a block, I would suggest you'd find the centres. And maybe you want to put some diagonals in and you want to start right in the centre, and then you could keep building this out. But just to show you how it works, I'm going to use the bowhin marking pencil that I really strongly recommend. I'm going to use the one with the black lead. Hold your template nice and firm and you simply hold the pencil upright. And I find if I press down on the template, it sits it close to the fabric. And you'll notice that my fabric does not stretch because I've got the batting behind it. It's a Hobbs Heirloom double-sided fusible batting, 80% cotton, 20% polyester. Love it, love it. Once we make our quilts up and we wash them, the marking pencil washes out, so I don't suggest marking dark. Just press lightly so you can just see the lines. I'm probably pressing a bit darker than what I should because I want you to be able to see the lines. But when I'm working on my own projects, I don't press too heavy. So it doesn't take long to trace the shape. Just go around. The templates have a 1/4 inch seam allowance around them, so if you're getting close to the edge of your fabric, you know where you need to stop marking. You can line up that 1/4 inch exactly. It's got little dots in it, so if I want to continue the design out, I put the dot in, mark the dot, and then when I want to move the template, I just align the dots up. Oops, so you can see I've missed a little bit here. I can easily realign the template right back where it was and fill in the gap. So there's my design. So now there's the little dot. If I wanted to extend this design out, I would align the dot up, and you can now see we're starting to get a secondary design happening. You can see that it's going to just flow on, and I could continue to fill up that whole piece of fabric with this beautiful, beautiful pattern. And the stitching is so easy because you can make it really a continuous line. Even though this is separate here, oops, I've missed another little bit there. Just forgot to fill it all in. I can make this a continuous line. I could start stitching here, come around, around and around, and I could come back out to here. So I could extend this out. There's no reason that this has to stop here, but you can stop and start just by drawing your bobbin thread up to the top and finishing it off neatly. If you want it as separate, you can quite easily do it, or we could go up, around, and we could come out to this point. We could come around, we could come back in, we could come around and come back out on this line and continue, come back in, go around again, come back out. So there's no rules. Stitching over another line is, to me, is very acceptable. Some people don't like it. I like it because it builds up a nice layer of threads. The second design, you do exactly the same, and there's no reason why you couldn't interact these two templates together. So I could come around and I could fill all of this in with this lovely design all the way around. You just need to work out the size of your block first. You don't need to use all the template. You may want to put it on point and just fill in with 1/4 of the shape. It will all look stunning no matter what you do with it. I've used this template here, this gorgeous one, to mark out this shape, just to be able to show you how it can become a continuous line. So I've put the template down, traced the design. I've marked this point here. So when I've got it all, this part drawn up, I move the template down and align it and trace the second piece. So now I'm starting to fill in the block. I can come back and fill in more here. Oops, I'll just get it all lined up to see which would look best. So by putting this back to this one and starting to draw again, I'm going to fill in this whole area. But if I didn't want to do that, I could draw this section and then I can just keep coming and echoing. And I'm going to show you on the machine in a moment when we start quilting how to set your machine up so you can get that happening perfectly. Then you can fill in the echoing like we have on the cushion here. So let's go to the machine and just show you simply how this is so easy to quilt on a line, and you're not going to be stressed out with quilting. It's a very simple solution for those that are challenged with how to do beautiful quilting. So let's go over to the machine. Now let's talk about setting up your machine. I'm just using my regular little Bernina. As you can see, I don't have a big extension table. I don't have a lot of space inside here. But I do always sew with 2 rubber door wedges under the back of my machine. These are just little wedges that you buy at the hardware store. Prop your machine forward. That takes a lot of the pressure off your shoulders, just having that sitting nice and angled. And you can angle it further if you wish to. I just like it slightly angled. One of the most important things I put on my machine to help me with this style of quilting is the sew slip mat. This is a mat that we've got the brown paper on the back. I'm going to take that paper off, and I do keep this paper to roll it in if I'm not going to be using it sometimes. It has the big cutout in it, as you can see. That cutout is going to go over around the feed dog area. Now the back side where I took the paper off, it's very sticky. So it's not tacky, it's not going to affect the bed of my machine, but it grabs to the machine, which makes it really, really easy to slide my fabric around. Then when I do that, I need to make sure my bobbin thread is drawn up from underneath. Pull your bobbin thread up through. You don't want your bobbin thread stuck underneath the mat, because if it is, it'll just break when you start sewing. So once we get that on, just get it on nice and neat, give it a pat down. so that it grabs there nicely. So it's not going to move as you sew. I use the titanium top stitch needles because I like a needle with a nice big eye, because I like using a lot of fine threads. I don't want my threads to split going through the eye of the needle. I use the titanium ones because I find they keep their point so much sharper than a regular needle. So the titanium coated top stitch needle, size 80, is what I do all my piecing with, all my quilting, all my applique. I just use the one needle for everything I do. Then the next thing I have on my machine is the open toe regular sewing foot. Now this is one you may have to purchase for your machine, but I find that I don't want anything in the front of my foot. I want it completely open so I can see that line that I've drawn on. So pop that on your machine. And we need to do a little test now to see what stitch length we want to use. And all machines do different, you know, like I could say use 2.5 stitch length, but some brand machines do a smaller 2.5 stitch length than others. So I want you to just, when you get your fabric ready and you've got your machine threaded up, do a little bit of stitching down the side or on a sample piece of fabric till you get your stitch length the way you want it. I use about a 2.55. I have my needle in the center position. And if you've got a needle up, needle down button on your machine, make sure you engage that, because that's going to make it easier every time you stop. If you don't have a needle up, needle down, every time you want to stop, make sure you hold your hand on your fabric while you hand wind your needle down into your work. Then you can take your hands off the fabric. Now when we start, I like to draw my bobbin thread up to the top. So we'll put our pressure foot down, draw your bobbin thread up to the top so that it sits through. And I find the awl is a very handy little tool to help you draw that thread up. And I'm using an invisible thread in my bobbin. And you know, you can use any combination of threads. Now we're just simply going to stitch on the line. And it's very, very easy. Now the sew slip mat is going to make this turn easy for me. It allows my fabric just to glide through. When we get up to the point, pop your needle down, lift the pressure foot and come back the other way. Now, when you start it, you could pull your pull the bobbin thread to the top. We could thread these threads onto a needle and bury them in, or we could have started on a stitch length 0, done a couple of stitches in the one spot, and then increased our stitch length over a few stitches up to the stitch length we want. So there's various ways that you can start and stop your quilting. So now over we go. And I find if I drive my fabric from the front, I don't need my hands all up here. I don't need this horrible posture happening. Just drive it from the front. It's very easy to do. And we're stitching on a line. When we get up to the point, I'm going to stop, lift the foot. Now, if I was working on a big quilt, this would be difficult because I'd have all the bulk of the quilt to keep turning. So this is why I've designed it for these templates for Quilt As You Go, because we're going to be working on small blocks. And if you want to learn all about my way of doing quilts Quilt As You Go, just hop onto our YouTube channel and look up how I do all of my quilts Quilt As You Go, because there's lots of different ways we can do them. So come around, stop, pivot. Yes, you are stopping and you are lifting the foot a few times through doing a design like this, but if you want to quilt beautiful designs in a very easy manner, let me tell you, it's so easy. Now I'm coming out to this other side now. Now I'm not going to go in and finish that last petal because that's where I want to finish when I do the whole design. What I'm going to do now is travel around the design. Just lift this foot up a bit. Now I'm not going to come around and around and around. I'm going to swing over and out. Top of one, bottom of the second one. And I just find that it makes it so much easier to quilt doing it this way. And you can notice with this fusible batting, I'm not having to use any pins. I'm not using a walking foot. I've got nothing in my visual sight at all except the design that I'm quilting. And it makes it very, very easy to do. And you just keep working around till you get the whole design done. And I'll work all the way around and then I'll come back to exactly where I started from and finish off my threads in whatever manner you like to finish off at. So using the templates, I'm sure that it'll make you very happy with the designs that you can quilt. And if you struggle, Quilt As You Go is the way to go. Have a look at our website, pqw.com.au. We've got some great templates there to make quilting very easy for you, plus lots of other tools. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Press that bell so that you get a notification every time we put up a new tool, technique or lesson for you. Bye for now.